Rarely do I speak on this topic, but that does not devaluate how important and how powerful this topic is in our society today, and the position that I feel as though that we in the church should be taking on this issue today. The catalyst that God used to kind of bring this sermon to fruition for this morning, if you will, some research that I was having to do this past week. Do you know, or have you realized there is 125,000 abortions a day? 125,000 abortions a day. 4.85 children die in America per day from child abuse. All these numbers about all these different kinds of abuse with children, and yet I hear very little about that. I keep on hearing millions of people pointing out how COVID has taken out 100,000 people. And I don't want to take away from that, and I feel sorrow in my heart for the families of those 100,000 people. I know that that's bad. I'm not trying to take away from that. But I will say this: how come we are not hearing anything about all the other preventable things that are happening to children that's been around long before that virus ever came to be? There's a whole lot larger numbers that has happened to our children and in the abortion mill industry, and yet we hear very little being proclaimed about those things. And yet, as the church, I feel as though that we have been called to go out there, and we need to put a voice to these children. It says that we should be the light into the darkness. Therefore, we should be speaking out for what Jesus says, the least of these. I don't think you can get any more least than these than the innocence of a child. And as the church, rather than just going out and saying a few words here and there, why aren't we proclaiming that? Why aren't we out there broadcasting our beliefs? Now, there was a story I heard. There was a church business meeting one time, and the church really needed lights in the sanctuary. So one of the people got up and they made a motion to buy chandeliers for the sanctuary. It would be beautiful. It would put lighting into the sanctuary, and everything would be good. And one of the men stood up in church and said, I am absolutely against this. I don't believe that we should have chandeliers at all. And the pastor said, well, why do you feel this way, brother? And he said, first of all, we don't have anybody that can play them, and we need lights in this sanctuary. We laugh, but do you realize that's what the pro-life, the pro-abortion side of the argument, that's what they accuse us of, that we're like that man in that story, that we're just backwoods, that we don't understand the word abortion. We don't understand what that actually entails, that we really don't understand the word and what's really going on, that people who are against abortion, we just don't understand the issues. We haven't really thought it out. We're just parroting what someone else has told us to parrot. That is their mindset. And I, unfortunately, would agree with them sometimes. Sometimes that is all people say. Oh, I'm just against abortion. If a young lady was to come to you today and said that I'm scheduled for an abortion in an hour, and I will give you 15 minutes to tell me why I should not carry this through, would you be able to tell her why? Would you be able to change her mind? Or what if a teenager was able to come to you and say, I have to write this paper, and I have to defend my pro-life position. And since you are a pro-life person, I'm asking you, can you help me write this paper and tell me why that I should support this and why I should believe in it as well? Oh, and by the way, my teacher said I can't just say just because. I need to actually have an argument with a backing up of that argument. I need to be able to present why I am pro-life. Would you be able to answer that question? Would you be able to speak to that individual? Because if you say no to either one of those, that's a problem that we have.